Our final podcast to explain this interactive tool for the Reading Now Network is based on the explanation of the table that you see in the second tab. This is the table where you selected your own district, and we used Grand Rapids Public Schools as an example. In the last podcast, we were featuring Coit Arts Academy, which was one of the 5 schools selected for the Reading Now Network. I would hope that the first few columns make sense to everyone, that this is in Mesa Region 3. The ISD is Kent ISD. The district name is Grand Rapids Public Schools. The building code is listed. The building name is Coit Arts Academy. The grade levels that it covers is kindergarten through 5th grade. The orange columns here at the top, we just try to contrast between orange and blue. If you highlight over the orange column, it will give you a little bit more of a description. This first one is the 2011-2012 free and reduced percent based on the fall count of the building according to CEPI. In 2011, free and reduced lunch population of about 86%. In 2012, it went down to 84%, and in 2013, it went back up to 85%. This column L that we highlighted in gray is the average of those 3 numbers, or that 85%. This average is what we used to plot the points on the horizontal axes of the graph. So 85% is halfway between 80% and 90%, which this happens to be Coit Arts Academy. The next set of columns after the average free and reduced lunch is this RZ 2012. This is the 2012 reading Z-score. Looking at the average Z-score for Coit Arts Academy, for example, we see that you have a negative 0.18, which is just slightly below the state average. Their highest school is a 2.5, and their lowest school is a negative 2.3. If you look back at the color coding, there is a table that will explain that a Z-score of 2 lands in the 98th percentile for the state. Z-score of negative 2 is in the bottom 2 percentile of the state. So then we can see that the next column is the same Z-score, but in the 2013 year. And in the 2014 year, we have a Z-score of negative 0.14. The average Z-score takes these 3 numbers and simply finds the arithmetic average. And it is this average Z-score that is plotted on the graph on the vertical axes. So going back to the graph, we have Z-scores that range from a negative 3.5 to a positive 3.5. And if we look right here at Coit Arts Academy, we see that it is very close to that horizontal line of 0. This is where the state average is, and they are just slightly below that horizontal line. The next grouping is known as the residual, which we explained on the graph as being that vertical distance. So the residual is this distance from the best fit line to the point. So it measures that distance in terms of the vertical axes, which is in terms of standard deviations from our expected value. So we expected Coit Academy to be down here around a negative 1, but they score closer to a negative 0.12. So when we look back at our table, we see this residual of negative 0.96. Now what we did for these particular columns is we actually just brought over the residual for every single year. So they had a different residual each year, which is probably the best indicator about how their elementary was achieving compared to others in the state with the same poverty. So they were about 1 standard deviation above each and every year, somewhere between 0.91 and 1.0. So their average residual comes out to 0.96. And there was 2 different ways that we computed the average. The first average was just averaging those 3 years, and it was just an arithmetic average. The second residual was actually based on those 2 columns that we highlighted. And as you can see, they are extremely close in value with just some very slight difference in the hundredths. The final columns are the actual reading percentage. This is the percent proficient for the most recent year. I also brought over the average achievement z-score so that you can see how their average z-score for all the subject areas compares. So you have reading, math, writing, and science at the elementary level. And then the residual for 2014 for that school based on all subject areas. In looking at the average residual, we see that we have several of these, 6 of these schools highlighted in green. That corresponds with these 6 dots in the green region. The one that's right on the line there corresponds with this blue, highlighted in blue. If you go back to our color coding, keep in mind those that are in the red are in the bottom 20%. Those that are in the top 20% are in green. Those that are in that middle third, between the 33rd and the 67th percentile, are just bolded with a black font, and those that are slightly above average are in blue, and those that are slightly below average are in orange. So again, as we look at the schools across this sample, we have these 6 schools that are in the top 20%. We have 1 school that didn't make the top 20% but would be considered slightly above average. The bulk of our schools are in that typical average range. We have 1 school that is slightly below average and 4 that are in that red area considered significantly below average. Hopefully this helps in the explanation of what these numbers represent. I hope these podcasts were helpful. If you need any additional help navigating or understanding the data in this interactive data tool, please don't hesitate to give me a call. My contact number is on the screen. Thank you and have a great day.